So chapter 1 is just an introduction to the anatomy and physiology, just to have an idea about the basics. And then starting from chapter 2, this is the core of this part. And we will be doing 1, 2, 3, 4 for the lecture exam 1. So introduction, anatomy and physiology. Anatomy basically is the structures, studying the structures. Physiology is more about function. We will be covering some biochemistry, biology, chemistry, and genetics, but it's more of biology, okay? Of course, you will need to attend all the lectures in all the labs. It's very important to attend. Learning outcomes, which is what I was talking about, the core of the chapter, what you have to know after you finish the chapter. You will need to practice, and let me say it from day one. I already told you that chapter 1 is just an introduction, okay, regarding the exam. But from the beginning, after this is just my advice again, you can do whatever you want. See or watch the lecture recording one time, and then study. After you study, you need to practice questions. I'm saying it from day one. I've been doing that for so many times, for a long time, and I know how it goes. What will happen is, some of you guys will say, okay, I'm just going to study. Okay, study. I studied and I memorized. I take the exam, I did bad. The exam was bad. I didn't understand what's happening. I'm telling you, it's not memorization. It's not just memorization. You have to understand first, and after you study, you have to practice. Meaning, I saw that a lot. A lot of students came to me and talked to me about this. I studied a lot, so many times. I memorized everything. I did bad. What's going on? Basically, you cannot practice during the exam itself. This is wrong. You cannot have all information in your brain, and then in the exam, you see the question and you're trying to dig through all this information. That is horrible. You can't do that. I guarantee that you'll do bad. You can't. You have to practice. So when you practice, you organize the information. You know how the question will look like. So when I see a question like this is the piece of information that I have to put here. Not digging through all the information that you know during the lecture. You will do bad, trust me. Okay? And I saw students doing bad in exam 1, even though I said the same thing. And then they came to me and we talked about that, and exam 2 they did a lot better. Why don't you do good from the beginning? Where to get these practice questions? I'm going to add links for some websites, and you can search it. I can supply some, not everything, but search more. The more you practice, the easier you will do in the exam. You don't have to go through everything. It's all cluttered in your brain. It's not one chapter. You will always do four chapters. So by the time you do the 4 chapters, everything is here cluttered, and you are looking around. This is the wrong strategy. Okay? So you have to practice as much as possible. All right? And again, I will supply you. I will put one of these sections. I will put the links. Go through it. If you see a practice quiz there, that's fine. Look yourself. It will take you to the website. Look more. Okay? There are also some questions, I think, in the appendix of the textbook or a CD or something. I'm not sure. I didn't go through it before, but there are some questions that some students told me it was very beneficial. It was very good. So these questions are also something that you can do. So anatomy is structure, physiology is function, gross anatomy or macroscopic anatomy is more of the large structures. Okay, and this is basically the lab. The lab is about macroscopic, so systems and regions and so on. There is also the microscopic anatomy, which can be either cytology and histology. Again, this is just an introduction to know what we're going to do. Cytology, cyte means cell, ology, study. So this is studying of the cell, and this is, I think it's a whole chapter. We'll cover cytology. Histology, histo means tissue. So histology is the studying of the tissue. So obviously we'll do studying the cells, studying the tissues, studying the system. Okay, and even less than the cells will be done, which is the biochemistry, which is the basics. So we have cell physiology, we have spatial physiology, which is organs. So cell, organ, system, and then a little bit about the abnormalities. We actually start from the chemical or molecular level, which is the chemistry part. We're not going to go deep in chemistry, okay? The basics, and you will see what exactly you have to know, and I'm saying that from day one. Anytime you see me focusing on something, know that this is the core of the chapter. When I say this is important, it is important, okay? Not because I'm giving you the exam, it's because I know that this is the most important part, all right? So we'll do the chemical, starting from small. When you put the molecular level together, you go to the cells. You put the cells together, you make, what do you call it when you put cells together? Tissue. You put tissues together to make organ. You put organs together to make organ system. You put all organ systems together to make the whole organism. So it goes like this: molecular level, chemical level, organs, organelles, I mean, which is inside of the cell, and then the cells, tissue, organ system, organism level. Integumentary system, this is basically the skin and everything related to the skin. Okay, this is just an introduction. Everything will be covered in details later on. So what's the function of the skin? Protection, it protects you from the environment, regulation of body temperature, sensation. Skeletal system, this will be covered in lab 1. It's bone and cartilage and other things. That's the function of those is protection and support, and it's also to store calcium and make blood. Muscular system, the muscles that provide movement, support, and it also regulates body temperature, and you will understand everything that we're talking about in details later on as we go. Nervous system is the brain, spinal cord, sense organs, and peripheral nerves. This is like 4 chapters or something by itself, so we will cover all the details. It's to detect the stimuli and response, coordination of the functions, and so on. Endocrine, this will be an AP2. We'll cover it in AP2, not in AP1. But basically what's endocrine system means, these are the glands that will secrete chemicals, and these chemicals travel to different parts of the body and do the effect. Okay, like the pituitary gland, thyroid, pancreas. Pancreas secrete insulin, for example. The insulin travel in the blood, go to the cells, and do the effect. So it's not direct effect. It's secrete something, secrete a chemical material, chemical compounds that travel in the blood, which is called hormone, and do the effect. This is the endocrine system. And it is one of the 2 controlling system of the body. The body is controlled through 2 things: nervous system, endocrine system. Nervous system is for fast control, meaning I need to do something immediately. I touch something that's hot. I have to withdraw my hand right away, in a second, right? This is the nervous system. My blood sugar is going down. You cannot correct it in a second. It will take some time. So this is the endocrine system, okay? So the pancreas will make the hormone, release it. So it takes maybe hours, half an hour, 1, 2, 10 hours. It will take some more time. So this is basically the slow response, or the slow control. Cardiovascular system, this is AP2. Will be covered in AP2, and basically it's the heart, the blood vessels, and the blood itself, which is all have to do with the blood. Distributing the blood to different organs, carrying oxygen, carrying nutrients, getting rid of carbon dioxide, and so on. Lymphoid system, this is our defense system. Okay, this is basically the spleen, the thymus, the lymph vessels, lymph nodes, and tonsils. These are basically the system that produces cells to protect us. So it's all about defense and returning fluid to the bloodstream, and we will cover that. Respiratory system, nasal cavities. These are the cavities in the skull. Why do we have nasal cavities? Did anybody had sinusitis before? Sinuses? Sinusitis. What are the sinuses? Why do we have sinuses? What are the sinuses first? Sinusitis is inflammation of the sinuses, yes. But sinus is basically a cavity. Like here, there's a cavity inside, a cavity inside here. Why do we have cavities? Basically, to make the bone lighter, so it's the weight of the skull will be lighter, and it also resonate the sound. It helps you to produce the sound with the resonance that you want. So the sound will get in and reflect back, making that resonance. These are the functions of the sinuses. So beside the sinuses and cavities, we have the larynx, trachea, and all the way down until you get to the alveoli. And basically, it's all about air. You get oxygen, you get rid of carbon dioxide and waste products. Digestive system, starting from the teeth, tongue, going all the way through the digestive system and the accessory organs. It's basically digestion and absorption. This is a function of the digestive system. Urinary system, kidney, ureters, bladder, and urethra. This is basically to filter the blood. This is a function to filter the blood out of toxics and anything that's not needed. Not necessarily toxics. Even normal things that's above normal, you get rid of it. Male reproductive, testes, epididymis, ductus deferens, and so on, different parts of the reproductive system. And it is basically to secrete the sex cells, like the sperms, the hormones, and for sexual intercourse, of course. Females, same thing, but their own hormones, their own organs, sexual intercourse. Okay, so all what we went through so far is just an introduction. If I'm going to ask you something, I'm going to ask you something starting from this point. Okay, homeostasis is something that you actually have to know. Okay, I can ask you about this. All what I talked about so far, we will only cover three organs, three systems of what we talked about. The skeletal system, which is the bone, the muscular system, and the nervous system. Anything else, AP2. Okay? Anything that's not one of those three will be discussed in AP2. So what's homeostasis? Homeostasis is the body systems work together to maintain stable internal environment. Stable internal environment. So what do you mean stable internal environment? Meaning everything in our body is within a normal range. Okay? Everything is within the normal range. You need to keep it within that normal range. Example, your body temperature. Your body temperature is 37 or 98.6, right? The normal body temperature. So homeostasis of the body temperature is to keep it within normal. Goes up, homeostasis bring it back down. Goes down, homeostasis bring it back up, right? Heart rate should be within the limit, 60 to 90. Goes above, up, slow it down. So you're basically pH. What's a normal pH for the body? What is it? 7.35 to 7.45. You can say 7.4 as an average, but it is a range. 7.35 to 7.45. This is the normal pH. And if you say the homeostasis of the pH, meaning you keep it within that range. And by the way, there is nothing in our body that you can call a number, a fixed number. I see a lot of students saying 7.4. Okay, I'm 7.38. Is that abnormal? It's normal. So it's not 7.4. It's 7.4 plus or minus 0.5. So if I measure the pH of all of us here, every one of us will be different. And all of us are normal. I am 7.35. He is 7.45. She is 7.4. He is 7.42. All of us are okay. All of us are normal as long as you are within the range. Everything is a range. There is no fixed number that you have to have it. And keeping that within the normal range is homeostasis. In order to regulate the homeostasis, it can be regulated from inside. So the body temperature regulates itself from inside. Okay, blood regulates itself. The heart regulates itself. This is called auto-regulation. And auto means own, self-regulation. And there's an external regulation, which is coming from the nervous system and the endocrine system. Those are the two systems that are controlling the whole body. Nervous system is the fast, endocrine system is the slow. We always have a receptor, control center, and effector. So basically it goes like this. Basically this is the basic function of everything in the body that we do. What happens when you touch a stove or something hot? You immediately withdraw your hand, right? You move your hand away, right? Do you even think about it? You don't think. If you're sleeping and I touch you with something hot, you do the same thing. You don't even think about it. What happened here? When you touch something, receptor pick up the signal, which is hot or cold or anything else, painful, and there is a wiring that take the signal from the receptors and travel to the control system, which is the nervous system. And then another wire will take the order to the muscles to contract, right? Are we following? This is a receptor. Let's say this is the hand. There is a receptor here. Here, you touch. A nerve will take it to the central nervous system. The nervous system itself is called the control center of the body. And then another nerve will go to the muscles, telling the muscles to contract. So you always go like this. Receptor, afferent, or nerve that's going toward the central nervous system. Another nerve goes out, go to the effector, which is a muscle. So receptor, afferent, control center, efferent, effector is a muscle. These are the components of the basic function of the entire body. So as an example of that, we always set the air conditioning unit, let's say something like 70, let's say an average, right? You put it on 70. What did you put in 70? This is a control unit, right? You adjust the control unit and put it on 70, right? This is a desired. This is a desired. This is the normal range that you want, right? Put it on 70. So this is a control system. In your house, there are some sensors that will sense the temperature in the house, right? It will be picked up. So there are sensors. And from the sensors, there are wires that will take this and take it to the control center, which is the unit itself, right? Do you know how your air conditioning unit and heating unit work? There are always sensors that pick up the temperature if it's going up or if it's going down. So it will be picked up. There is a wire that take it to the control center. Tell the control center what's happening. Okay? So we put it on 70. It's 65. It's cold. 65. The receptors, or the sensors I mean, which is corresponding to receptors in our body, the sensors will pick up 65. A wire will take it to the control center that you put it on 70, telling the control center it's 65, right? The control center will decide what to do. In this case, you will turn on the heating unit, right? This is your response, right or not? So the sensors are like the receptors in the body. The wire that connect the receptor to the control unit is like the nerve in our body. It's wire. And then the control system itself is like our central nervous system. And then another wire will go from the control center to the heating unit in this case to turn it on, right? Isn't that how it goes? This is exactly like our body. And actually, they developed this system to mimic our body. They did exactly what we understand about our body, and they translated into heating and cooling units. And you have a heating and cooling unit in your body that you will see. So, practically speaking, what's actually happening in your house, you see the unit going on and goes off, right? Turn on, turn off by itself, right? Why? Because it gets cold, the heating unit turns on. So it goes up. It goes up a little bit, it turns off. And then it cools down, it turns on, off, on, off. So actually it's going in a fluctuation, or it's going in circles, up, down, work, on, off. This is how the units work, which is you put the thermostat on a certain temperature and it will be kept as it is, but it will go up and down a little bit as you go. Okay, so negative feedback, this is actually the response of the effector, okay? To keep things back in homeostasis, okay? There is negative feedback and positive feedback. Negative feedback means you put your unit on 70, okay? It's 65. It will turn on the heater, right? The heating unit. It will go up, right? Now it's going up. It's now 70. What's the system will do? Will stop, right? So what did you do to the effector? What did you do to the heating unit? You turn it off. This is negative feedback. So when you do a negative feedback, the response is the opposite. So let's say 65. Turn the heating unit on. It's 70 now. Turn it off. This is negative feedback. Okay? So you do the negative of the action. So, and you bring things back to normal by doing the negative. The effector is doing the negative. So if you apply that to the body, in the units in the house, we have the thermostat, right? This is what you put at 70, 65. Are we familiar with the thermostat? What's the thermostat in our body? The hypothalamus. We have something similar. By the way, really, the way they did the house's heating unit and cooling unit is exactly mimicking our body. Exactly. So the thermostat that you adjusted is equivalent to the hypothalamus in your body, but it is adjusted automatically. You don't adjust it. It is adjusted on 37 or 98.6. Okay? Normal body temperature and the normal pH is something that you need to remember. Okay? What's the normal body temperature? 37 or 98.6. Okay? You have to remember these are the basics. pH 7.35 to 7.45. Or if that's easier, it's 7.4 plus or minus 0.5, whatever you want. But you have to remember the range anyway. All right? So the thermostat in the body is actually the hypothalamus, which is in the brain. We will do it when we do the nervous system. But you have the hypothalamus. In your house, you adjust it, you put it on what you want, and the body is automated. It is on 37 or 98.6. This is the thermostat. And then you have a wire that goes from the sensor to this unit. And this will be the nerve afferent. Okay? And then we have another one that go to the heating or cooling unit, turn it on and off. That will be the efferent, and the heating unit is called the effector, which is the same exactly as our body. And the goal is to keep everything within normal range, which is called homeostasis. So what's the most important part in this chapter? Homeostasis, negative and positive feedback. Okay? What's the positive feedback? The positive feedback is actually the opposite of the negative feedback. What was the negative feedback again? When you do an effect that's opposite or decreasing, like it's getting hot, stop. You do something negative, stop the unit. When you stop the unit, you're doing a negative action. This is a negative feedback. How about the positive feedback? It's not. This does not include the positive feedback. How about the positive feedback in our body? What is it? You add up to the change instead of doing the opposite. So instead of the heating unit is on, you turn it off. This is called negative. The positive is it's on. Make it even more. Make it higher. This does not apply really on the heating unit. It's not a logic explanation, but the logic explanation is, let's say bleeding. If you're bleeding, okay, when you bleed, the goal of the body is to stop bleeding, right? Homeostasis. You're not supposed to bleed, right? So if you're bleeding, after a few seconds, it will stop, right? Did you think about how did it stop? The first thing to stop is platelets go to this injured area and seal it. Platelets accumulate. We'll send the chemical messenger. More platelets will come. You increase the platelets, you send another signal to get more platelets. See what's your action now? You're increasing the action. This is positive feedback. Did we get this? So you start with adding 1,000 platelets. The 1,000 platelet will send the chemical messenger to another 1,000 platelets. Positive. And then the more you add, the more you demand. So aren't you adding to the initial action? Right? Is that clear? Anytime you have a question or you see something that's not clear, just raise your hand, okay? Yes?
So there has to be a negative action to get a positive feedback?
The negative feedback, it's all about the action, okay? The negative feedback is a feedback that results in a negative action or result in stopping the initial action. What was the initial action? You turned on the heater. A negative feedback, turn it off. So what's the action? The opposite. Okay? The positive feedback is of the same. Platelets accumulate. Send the signal. To stop the accumulation? No, to add more. Okay? And then the signal will go. To stop the accumulation? No, to add more. This is positive feedback. Somebody in the back? Yeah.
So for the positive feedback, normal range is lost. So I didn't see on the other slide what normal range is for negative feedback.
Both negative and positive feedback, both of them, the goal is to get into the normal range. Anyway, both of them, but in a different way. Okay? The negative feedback will get you back into the normal range by doing the opposite action. The positive feedback will get you also to the normal range by doing more of the same action. Okay? So when you decrease the change or do the opposite, this is negative. When you do more or increase, this is the positive feedback. So this is the example I was giving. If you have an injury and you're bleeding, the blood vessel break down. The cells that are damaged will release a chemical that will attract platelets, making a clot. The clot will send more chemicals, and the more chemicals will add more clotting. And the more clotting will add more chemicals. And the more chemicals will add more. Did we say anything negative here? You're doing more of the same. So the more clot you have, the more chemicals that will add more clotting. More chemicals, more clotting. So you're adding more of the same action, and this is called the positive feedback. So something like this is a blood vessel. You have an injury, it's bleeding. Okay, the thrombocytes will come and try to seal it. The more thrombocytes accumulate, it will attract fibrin. The more fibrin come, it will attract more fibrin to come. And fibrin is basically when you have, let's say in your house, you have one of the water pipes that's broken, okay, and it's leaking water. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? To call the plumber or to stop it first? Shut off the water, right? And seal it, stop it, and then call the plumber, right? You don't wait. So when you have an injury, the first thing to do is constrict the blood vessels, make it smaller, So less blood, you're losing less blood. Plus, you seal it. Like you put like a piece of cloth or something on the leaking pipe to stop it, right? You don't want to ruin your house, right? So you seal it. You put something on it. These are the platelets. The platelets will temporarily seal the injury, and then the fibers or the fibrin will come on the platelets to stop bleeding. Okay? There is a whole process, but this is more on the blood. I'm just talking about the basics now. Okay? Just to cover the positive and negative feedback. If the homeostasis is disturbed for some reason, this is where we get the disease or the pathological conditions will occur. Okay, these are examples of the different integrations of the body. Okay. So in this chapter, homeostasis, positive and negative feedback is the most important part regarding the questions. We did this part in the lab, if you remember. Okay, so you will see it here. If you want to take a look at it again, it might have been a little bit overwhelming in the lab today, but if you wanted to go through it again, it's right here in this first chapter. So you will see everything that we covered here. Of course, I'm not going to go through it again. Okay, so this part that was covered in the lab, it's lab, so I'm not going to ask you much about it, but if I wanted to ask you something about this, okay, that's basically lab. But what can we ask about this? We can ask about the serous membranes, like parietal versus visceral. Okay, this is one. What's in the cavities? This is two. And something like the retroperitoneal space. What's in the retroperitoneal space? So these are the things that if I wanted to ask you something related to this, anything else is anatomy. So it's more of a lab. So if I wanted to ask you about something in here, I'll ask you about the serous membranes, visceral and parietal, the contents of the cavities, and structures in the retroperitoneum. Okay? So this is for chapter 1.